So, Michalis, people may know you from your playing in Lingua Franca.
Yes,
The band was actually formed because you studied with Michalis Kouloumis
exactly.
at Codarts in Rotterdam. You are from Cyprus,
Yes.
and I read that you specialize in Cypriotic tradition, Greek tradition, and Ottoman music. And my first question would be, is Cypriotic tradition distinct from Greek tradition?
Not necessarily. I would say Cyprus is a melting pot of different civilizations over time. Um, the last 5 centuries, it was captured, let's say, by Ottomans. So we were under Ottoman rule, but before by Byzantine. So it's a blend of different civilizations. Music-wise, I would say the last 100 years, because of different waves of refugees, because of different wars, came to Cyprus, and most of Cypriot music comes from the colors of Istanbul, Smyrna, Aegean Sea Islands. I would say also some Arab influences as well. Yeah.
And to be involved with Ottoman classical music, how is that for a Greek person or a Cypriotic? Because you are Greek Cypriotic, right?
Yes. Very interesting question, and very correct. We consider Ottoman music part of our identity to Greeks, let's say. I'm generalizing a little bit. Partly because Ottoman Empire conquered these areas, Cyprus too. We kind of knew and felt these sounds of the makam music in general, not only folk, but as well as classical or Sufi traditions. I have to say, in Cyprus there was one teke, the Sufi teke, very prominent within the Ottoman Empire. So I kind of feel very close to Ottoman classical music, even being Cypriot, but having studied in Athens as well. Ottoman music was being studied at that time from many musicians, partly because, you know, Istanbul is a multicultural city, and it was for millennia, and we feel partly our part of the city too.
Mm-hmm. Your instrument, the violin, is a modern instrument in a way. It's not part of the tradition, I guess. Is your playing connected to because probably is the lira, is the traditional bowed instrument. Is that an inspiration for you?
Yes. After studying Western classical music in Cyprus for many years, I had this urge of understanding those traditions. I would study further by capturing the essence of this music with the instruments primarily used in this music. Violin's a very modern instrument compared to ney, for example, compared to kanun. Even kanun is a very ancient instrument. Lira, of course, really ancient instrument. So in my endeavor, I was always inspired and actually being very delicate with how I introduce violin into these traditions. I had this feeling that I am responsible for the music I play, to not to promote but to present it in a nice sequence, like how I took it from my own father, from my own teachers, to lead it to the other generation. So it was very delicate for me to listen to recordings mainly from lira, ney, tambour, rather violins exclusively. Yes.
Yeah. You also specialize in unusual techniques, like the diplochordal.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit what that is?
Diplochordo. Such a beautiful technique, such a beautiful invention from the first people that they did. Diplochordo in Greek means double string.
Right.
In Turkish it's çifteteli. Çifteteli also refers to a dance as well, like a 4/4 dance. Chifte Duyek, to be more precise. Now the plochordo, I believe it was invented in Asia Minor, in the western coast of Turkey.
Its two strings are tuned.
So this technique on violin is applied how? From the high string, which is E, the second is A. So the A string, we take it a step of a perfect fourth below, which makes E, but those two E's are in an octave.
Ah.
So it's a low E.
Aha.
And then we move this A, new E string, closer to A, so that we can play both at the same time.
It's a little bit like a 12-string guitar.
Yes.
Where you have
Yes.
the octaves difference between the two.
Yes. It's quite difficult. It's quite difficult to perform something tasty and meaningful on that setting. But once you listen to it, and especially for dancers or people just admiring good music, they elevate the soul unbelievably.
So Michalis, one last question. You are releasing a new CD, which is called Displaced Dreams. Please tell us a little bit about this project.
So Displaced Dreams is it's a project, it's a work that has been composed over the last 5 years. It started as an improvisational project only for solo violin, and then it turned up to be a first composition, extended composition for string ensemble and traditional instruments. Over time, this took the shape of an album finally, and I composed more pieces. I lost my father, and that was a second inspiration of finalizing this album and dedicated it to him, of course. It's going to be released very, very soon this year. I already sent the first copies to people contributed financially for the album, and it's going to be released between 3 labels. Have to choose on which of those I should publish. I'm very happy because it's an album with includes many artists, like 20 people recorded together with me, and I'm very proud of it.
I saw Dina Donev there,
Dina Donev,
whom I know as Kostas Theodorou.
Kostas Theodorou, the Greek name,
The
Dina
great
Donev.
bass player.
Yes,
Yeah.
Unbelievable, and he was one of the, he inspired me a lot in this process. In the recording studio, I had him just in front of him, being the father, standing as well. Yeah, I owe a lot to this guy, musically and personally too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ton. Thank you for this.